two main sides that were the loudest. You had the institutions who laughed him off and went like this, which is only going to drive him and his followers further away. And then you had the people who are more open-minded to things who then said, you know what? Because they're pushing him off, he must be right about everything.
Exactly.
How do you solve that problem? If you talk about meaning, where I'd push back on that, the thing about that one variable in particularly is that it is the one thing that all of us know we have in common. We all have some sort of search for that in some way at some point in our life, unless we literally don't have an ability to hold a thought due to medical issues or something like that. We all wonder where we come from and where we're going when the thing happens that happens to every single person that's ever been on this earth, which is we die. And that is at the very core of what it is to be a human being. So if you are, I like what you said, pointing out that, you know, a part of these problems are a search for meaning. I don't know, though, that if you did simplify it down to that, it would be that dangerous, because I would agree. I think if you look at the average, you know, the average upset person, regardless of political leanings, let's look in America, right? Maybe they have a lot of college debt. Maybe they feel like they wasted their time sticking to the plan that they were told is going to be a part of the American dream. Maybe they feel like they're in a dead-end job and they spend all their time scrolling on their social feed, which depletes their dopamine, and they wonder why they're depressed all the time. Maybe, you know, their parents are still trying to retire and they're 65 and there's no retirement in sight, and so they're wondering, well, what the fuck's there going to be for me? And it starts to get to like, well, what is the point of this whole thing? Which to me, when I hear something like that, that's related directly to what is the meaning of my life.
Mm-hmm. Some of the public mistrust in science, to me, comes from people who say, look, science for the past 100 years has been promulgating this idea of physicalism, that all there is this dead matter. And then there's some people, since they've done some meditation or psychedelics or seen the phenomenon or what have you, they've had some experiences and they feel like there's something more here. There's something more. This can't just be it. Then they get let down by the gods, their previous gods of science, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, who sanctimoniously say, no, not only is materialism correct, but they scorn the people who think that there's something else more than just materialism. By the way, materialism is the old word. Physicalism is the new one, because you don't just accept that there's a cup, but there's also physical law, and that's called physicalism.
Okay. Can you actually expand upon that a little bit? Because you lost me there. So you're getting into physics. So can you just say that again? Like what Neil's trying to say there? I'm sorry.
Neil would say that the opposite of materialism is spiritualism. That's false. He's philosophically not trained. And that's fine. But you don't despise philosophy just because you think you know what it is.
Yeah.
And you also don't despise the people who comprise the majority of your audience who are interested in ideas that go beyond just physics.
And that's the problem.
It makes up the bulk of the people who purchase tickets to his show, so he should have some more gratitude.
Yeah, you can't, when you start looking, like, especially if you're a really smart guy, maybe you know a few more things, but when you start looking down on outer ideas based upon the people who may promulgate them, you got a problem. That's how society shifts. And right now, you know, we are seeing a massive divide in institution versus Main Street, right? In everything. But at the forefront of that is certainly science. And we're in this era where after COVID, the lack of trust in the experts, so to speak, is at an all-time low, because on one very big issue, there appear to have been all kinds of not only mistakes made, but on the back end, almost disciplining of people who even had questions about that point on the way there. And so as a result, everything now at a scientific level, regardless of what it is or how much little or not to do at all with, say, the pandemic, the science may have, people are naturally, with their trust broken, questioning all of it. And I kind of sit here like, well, we should be able to question things, right? But at what point do we go too far to the point that legitimate institutions that should exist, maybe to stay with the example specifically in science, become a victim to something that they had nothing to do with, and we risk tearing down part of what makes the West great.
We're told that there is no such thing as a foolish question. Just ask your questions.
Yeah.
And then if someone's like, oh, could so-and-so be aliens or UFOs? Then you're made to feel inane for asking a question.
Yeah.
I don't think that's right.
It's not. And, you know, I think we also had a moment. Let's just get into this Terrance Howard thing. So,
yeah, that's more than a moment.
Yeah, it's more than a moment, but in the context of all the things we've seen over the past few years, it's a moment out of that where this guy comes up, he's a well-known actor, he clearly has a very, very creative, functioning brain, and there's some things that he rethinks that maybe you're like, okay, you should question that. At the same time, though, he brings up all kinds of stuff, like almost like a decision tree, like he takes one leap, and then, you know, it leaps out into 4 more things, and he leaps off those and leaps off those to where it gets so deep that you're so far away from where the truth even was, and it's like, how can we take this seriously? That said, the reaction to him had, from what I could see, 2 main sides that were the loudest. You had the institutions who laughed him off and went like this, which is only going to drive him and his followers further away. And then you had the people who are more open-minded to things who then said, you know what? Because they're pushing him off, he must be right about everything.
Exactly.
How do you solve that problem?
Part of this is that at the seed of it is that people are obsessed with the notion that reality in its depth isn't what it seems. That we have a fear of the unknown that people say often, fear of the unknown, but there's also equally potent a fear of the known that lurks beneath. We crave, and I mean deeply crave, Julian, that there's some discrepancy in the conventional account to the point where it's like we're afraid, we're terrified that reality may not have some grand illusion behind it.
What do you mean by that?
The people who love the ideas of Terrance Howard, they're the type that, firstly, I shouldn't say they're the type. They believe there's knowledge that's been hidden, and that what you have to do is you have to uncover, you have to look beneath the surface. And that comes from something called the hermeneutics of suspicion, which came about from Nietzsche, Freud, and Marx. So Marx would say, look, this surface level that we're speaking at, don't trust it. Follow the money. Look at the economics of it. So that's, even that phrase, follow the money, we still say today.
Oh, yeah.
That comes from Marx.
Yeah.
Nietzsche would say, no, you follow the power. You don't listen to what people are saying. Groups want power. Freud would say, you don't listen to the surface level utterings. You observe the unconscious. So there's constantly this chronicle of something at the surface level that is false. Plato's cave is also like this. What you're seeing is not here. There's something else that's truer behind it. Furthermore, it's being kept from you. And so what you can do is you can truly experience it, or whatever that may be.
For people who aren't familiar with Plato's cave, can you explain that full thing?
Plato had firstly, Plato spoke in an interesting way. It was dialogues. It's just like reading a movie script. It's just 2 people talking back, like a Quentin Tarantino scene where it's just dialogue. It's just dialogue. There's not even scene transitions. And the person walks over here. No, there's just Socrates says this. Glaucon was Plato's brother. He had Glaucon say something else in Plato's cave. So Socrates says, look, Glaucon, what if knowledge is like there are a set of people who are bound and they can only see the wall, and there's some fire behind them, and there's some figurines like puppets or what have you, and they're making images on the wall. And these people who are bound, they just see those images, those shadows cast by the fire. Will they not believe that to be the true reality? Glaucon's like, that's impressive, Socrates. Everything is set up. It's bad writing, actually.
Yeah.
Like in film, you wouldn't have this, where there's some characters obsequious and always agreeing to the other one. But Socrates is the wise person, so they didn't have the subtleties of screenwriting back then. So Socrates then further says, well, what would happen if one of these people got loose? They would turn around, they would see the fire, they would get burned in their eyes from the fire because they're just used to the shadows on the wall, the flickering. And then the person's like, Glaucus, like, yes, that's very wise of you, Socrates. Then Socrates says, okay, now suppose this person exits the cave and goes to the surface and sees this city where everyone's happy and laughing and etc. And then there's the sun. They're also going to be blinded from the sun. Wouldn't they, then when they go back down to the cave to tell all the other cave dwellers, wouldn't they seem crazy? I think he even uses that word, crazy. Wouldn't they all say, you've lost your mind? So that's the story that's in our bones that motivates plenty of the feeling behind what's going on in this UFO world and the Terrance Howard world as well. That the institutions, whatever that means, the academy, they have this false knowledge, or maybe they have in their possession some true knowledge. Maybe the government has it. It just needs to be disclosed to you. Yeah. Disclosed is also something that comes from the hermeneutics of suspicion.
Guys, if you're still watching this video and you haven't yet hit that subscribe button, please take 2 seconds and go hit it right now. Thank you.
Now, the problem is that you will always be suspicious. So the government discloses something to you, you're going to be suspicious of that.
Right. That's
something else happens. Aliens reveal themselves to you. Then what? Something that I ask, and that it seemed like you ask as well, is then what? Like, someone says, I just want to know about X, Y, and Z. And then you think, okay, suppose you were to know it. Then what? Well, what? Then what? And then, okay, by then I want to know about A, B, and C. Then what? Lou Elizondo had a thought experiment. Actually, it's not a thought experiment. It's a question. He said something akin to, suppose that aliens were real, what have you. They've been here for some time. How do you treat your family? How does that change? In other words, we think what we have to do is that there's different doors. We're constantly told this. You have to maximize your opportunities. Go through the doors that maximize the amount of doors that are there so that you can maximize the potential that's offered to you. Yeah. In other words, keep searching, keep going, keep going.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.